guys, it's time to get started installing these Kooks 1 7/8 catted long tube headers on our 24 Mustang. So we've already got the car on the lift. We'll be doing most of the work from the bottom side, but there are a few things that we got to do from the top side first. And number one, anytime you're working on these cars, turning any bolts whatsoever, it's always going to be a good idea to get down here to your battery, remove the ground cable, de-energize the system so you don't have to worry about any problems with any sensors, so on and so forth. And also we're going to pull the intakes off this car, maybe even move that coolant reservoir, not sure, but basically what we want to do is get as much room as we can so we can get down in there and take the nuts off the top side of the engine mount. You can kind of see it down there on the driver's side, but we'll just get a few things out of the way, get the engine mounts loose from the top side, and then we'll raise the car up in there and start working from the bottom. All right, we got our ground cable disconnected from a battery, and we've got the intakes out of the way so that we can get to the nuts for the engine mounts. And I'll try to position the light so I can show you what I'm talking about. But anyway, you got more room on the driver's side, but let's see. You can see that stud right there that I'm pointing to. That is the engine mount stud right there. So there was a nut on it, one on both sides. I was able to get down with some extensions and some swivel sockets and so on and so forth and get them loose and out of the way. The passenger side is kind of the toughest to get to because of that bend in that factory manifold right there, but it's no problem. Get them out because we're going to have to raise the engine up from the underside and remove the engine mounts off the block itself so that we can get more access to the factory manifolds. But those are the nuts right there that holds the engine mounts to the frame isolator. So next step, get the car up in the air and start taking some stuff loose under the bottom. All right, car's in the air, and one of the first things I'm going to do is remove this front air dam cover up under the bottom of the car, get it out of the way so I've got more room to work up under the engine area, around the engine mounts and so on and so forth. Also, I got to get the factory pipes out of the way and go ahead and disconnect it from the cap back here. As you know, we've got a Corsa already on the car, and we're going to get all this disconnected, dropped out of the way so we can actually get to the manifold bolts on the cylinder head. So let's strip some more stuff apart and we'll come back in a little bit. So I've been working under the car. I have taken the catalytic converter pipe off on the passenger side. It unbolts from the factory exhaust manifold, which makes it very nice, very easy to work with. Ford, in their infinite wisdom since about 2015, the Gen 2 Coyotes, they have incorporated the driver's side catalytic converter in with the factory exhaust manifold, so you can't separate them. So you have to drop all that as one unit, and I've broken it down as much as I could. So I've taken away the connection pipes from the cat back, and I've unhooked my O2 sensors where I can. The only one that remains to be unplugged is the wideband for the driver's side, and I can't unplug it until I actually take this exhaust manifold and catalytic converter loose and let it fall down some, which is kind of aggravating, but that's just the way it is. But that's where we're at. You can see I've got the engine supported with a pole jack. I'm lifting it by the oil pan under the front corner. Nice thing about these Gen 4s, they did go back to a steel oil pan versus the composite one, so that's a little bit stronger. But still use a block of wood, and caution when you do this, when you lift the engine by the oil pan. But we've got it supported by a pole jack. Next step is to take these factory engine mounts loose from the engine block and get them out of the way. That'll give us more room to actually get to the header bolts and nuts on both sides. Oh, by the way, I did remove the starter. The starter is out of the way. You can see the wires here dangling out of the way, but that's out of the way. That's where we're at. So next step is to remove the engine mounts off the block, get them out of the way, and then we can get to the factory manifold bolts. All right, guys, I wanted to show you how everything looked at this point after I've got the engine mounts out of the way. Let me show those to you on the table. Driver side, passenger side. You got 4 bolts that go on the block that retain them on both sides, and once you get them out of the way, you can get to your factory manifold bolts a lot easier. I will say a difference between these 24s with the Gen 4 in them versus the older models is, with an automatic transmission, the cooler lines are a little different. The bracketry is a little different that secures them. There's some brackets that stabilize this on the engine mount, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get it loose. They're kind of difficult to work around, but I got them. And anyway, now I can proceed on removing the factory manifold. So that will be the next step. All right, guys, I'm chiming back in. I have finally got the factory manifolds out of the way. You can see they're off on both sides. I've got the studs out as well. Actually, you have to remove all the studs on the passenger side to be able to get the factory manifold out, because of the that stud on the AC compressor there. So had to pull all the studs out, but once you got all the studs out, you were able to remove the manifold. The driver side's easy peasy. You can just undo the nuts and you can slide the manifold down. And notably, just so you guys know, there is a difference in the bolt pattern on the Gen 4 24 Mustang Coyotes. Here's the manifold gasket. So back in the previous generations, all of these bolt angles were the same orientation. Now you got them 2 going one way, 2 going another way, and that's basically how it is on a GT500 Predator engine. And I will say that I'm hoping that these headers will be not as hard to install as they are on a GT500. They are a real pain on a GT500. I will say that these factory manifolds, I really don't like them. Yeah, they're designed differently, obviously. The passenger side, it's kind of like the previous generation, not so bad. But this driver side, with the catalytic converter made into it, that right there is just a heavy hot mess, a mixture of stainless steel and cast all together into that catalytic converter. Is really heavy, and I just don't like how it all flows together. But that's what Ford did, and obviously we're going to change that. So I think we're a good stopping point. Probably make a video out of this and then do another YouTube video following up with the installation of the new header. So stay tuned, guys.